Good morning, Ms. Britton.
Morning, Madam Moderator. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So morning again. Thank you very much. And I'm not sure if there are any ministers with us, senior policy practitioners in the region, the Cantor chairperson and the CEO of the NTA team, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in and out of CARICOM, and fellow presenters and panelists. I'd like to start by thanking the NTA Trinidad and Tobago for inviting me. ICT people don't usually get invited to these exciting education events, and so I really appreciate the invitation. And also to Dr. Eduardo Ali, who sought me out and I think made the recommendation. So thank you to both of you. I also really thank the persons who've gone before. They've already given us a wealth of information. I've been scribbling, and it just gives us a lot of opportunity in the region, I think, to sit and reprofile how we want to deal with TVET. I'm going to just start. Oh, my screen, sorry. Just let me just start the presentation. Presentation up. Madam Moderator, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. Good, thank you. Okay. I just wanted to give us some context. I think we've got context all morning, but some more context is that planning for educating is always an uphill battle. There have been reports that said there's an approximate 100-year gap that was in about in the early 90s, 100-year gap between schooling opportunities and outcomes for young people between the developed and the developing world. And another study done in around 2005 says that it will take 85 years for about 1.6 billion people in the world to catch up with the right type of education as we view it. So I wanted to look a little bit at some of the factors impacting the way we work and operate, and what will guide us and drive us with regard to how we plan for TVET as we go forward. Everybody, or we're all familiar, I think, or many of us familiar with what is now called the fourth industrial revolution, which is really causing major disruption in the labor market. And since TVET is focused on that market, is one of the things that you need to keep in mind as well. And it is creating what is called a perfect storm of making many businesses change their models, and in several industries. We also have to look at the future of work, and in particular relative to all societies. I just put Caribbean and CARICOM there since I am representing the CARICOM Secretariat. But it really looks more to how we put value along the chain between work, the individual, and society. And that is also causing new categories of jobs to emerge, and in some cases displacing either wholly or partially some that we knew and held dear. The skill sets which have been alluded to and remarked directly by persons before me are required in both the old and new occupations. They're going to change most of our industries, transform how and where we work, and they may affect female and male workers differently and transform the dynamics of the industry gender gap because of how females are now allowed to perhaps participate a lot more wholesomely in the whole labor market. Also, one of our drivers, we have a couple of economies emerging. There's a digital economy which is really fast-tracked by digital technologies and looks in very focused ways at how we connect what data travels and is value is added to in this economy, the jobs and skills required for that economy, and of course, being able to pay and have good economic life therein. For us in the CARICOM region as well, the blue economy is upon us and really looks at how we take care of the seas and the oceans around us, but also continue to get economic rewards from it while we take care of it in a sustainable way. So, and that also is spawning new jobs, new activity, and all sorts of other discussions. We also have in our midst as a region the lack of skills being a strong constraint to economic activity, and it is also stymieing innovation. You'll notice on the screen that Latin America is one of the highest scoring, this is not a good score, but highest scoring in the world, similar to Africa, and they're both actually higher than the world average with regard to having unskilled workers and weak regulatory systems, and education being identified as one of the constraining factors. We also have this new entrant, COVID-19, and many speakers before have also spoken about it. It's said that in the last 50 years, we've seen the biggest biggest growth in the provision of education at all levels across the world, but that COVID-19 now presents the greatest challenge to all of those national education systems that have done so well in the past 50 years. And we see that even while we had the first phase and lockdown of COVID-19, 85% of the TVET institutions in Latin America and the Caribbean were completely closed. I don't have the detail for CARICOM yet, but we're working on it. And so it's a big opportunity to, we've had to look at short-term solutions, but also to seize the opportunity to create long-term positive impacts and to develop greater resilience for our region. With regard to TVET and COVID, many countries were forced into lockdown, but some of the challenges highlighted, and I just wanted to share some with you, were that instructors were not properly trained to deliver online courses. There was a difficulty in adapting what we already have into online formats. The lack or limited access to the internet was obviously a big one. Apprentices were ready for assessment but couldn't be assessed due to the same reasons and others. So we have some persons who are at the cusp of hopefully employment but waiting. And there's also the fact that students themselves who may have been using these institutions were not able to access the resources needed to continue in an online environment. We also have emerging, sort of silently, but definitely in the space, that many institutions, many learning institutions now, and big universities and big learning bodies put a lot of their stuff online immediately with COVID. And so now TVET is being thrown into a pool with competitors who are as large as, 400-year universities, etc. MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, that type of thing. With regard to COVID-19 and technology emerged as a sort of a winner in COVID-19. There was a lot of activity, and it helped to fast track digital transformation for the most part across the world, and to focus us in this region as to things we could do to help the digital transformation continue. It also helped us to wake up to the fact that customers are key, and the customer experience is key and central to everything that we're doing. And so data and artificial intelligence were used very heavily and will continue to be used to make that customer experience more valuable, more interesting. And as we think as TVET practitioners, how do we factor that in as we factor around our customers? The COVID-19 and technology experience also showed us that digital skills are critical, not only for being an IT person, but if you had the functionality, for example, in your country to interface with your doctor, you had to be able to go on to whatever platform your doctor was using. More than likely it was Zoom in the first weeks, or go to meeting as we're using now or something. So even as a private ordinary citizen, your digital skills also became critical in the midst of COVID. And attracting the best talent now with regard to who do you engage in your company or to work with you is also a big deal now because of COVID-19. So as we think about it, and I was asked to talk about innovation in tech, the story is more becoming, is it innovation in tech or by technology? We are being shaped by the tools that we ourselves created. We create them first, we shape them for what we think we want them to do, and thereafter they shape us, as the quote on the left says. So ICT and technology is driving that digital economy we spoke about before. Digital transformation is disrupting every sector. Disrupting society's norms, and it's converging technologies will cause the changes in education capabilities and the needs, and it's also placing a strong emphasis on skills more so than education. Some of the skills which I'm sure you'll talk about in the course of this week are, starting from the left, the one skills for those not yet employed, those in employment, but underpinned by all the skills we need for lifelong living and lifelong learning. At the policy level, obviously, we have international policy. We're all buttressed and all our regions agreed to develop the Sustainable Development Goals. But we also, at the regional level, have many policies which already support what we want to do. Some of them are listed there: the Regional Strategic Plan, there's a Single ICT Space Roadmap and Work Plan, Human Resource Development Strategy. We just started a CARICOM Girls and ICT Partnership Initiative with several key international and regional partners. There's a TVET strategy, we have CXC policies, CVQs, there's Cantor's work, and obviously sectoral plans and policies which support the work. So what are some of the imperatives for change in making TVET learning and quality better than it is now? Obviously, the shift in the development paradigm, which I think Professor Copeland talked about in his remarks, we're not only looking at economics in the new world, we're also looking at human development. People don't only want to make money, but they want to make that money and enjoy it in the ways they want to enjoy it. So education and training institutes are being hard pressed to provide every citizen with the learning skills that they need. And all citizens will need these 21st centuries, including basic skills, but we also need a high-performing cadre of ICT graduates as well, who will help us to navigate this world. Some of the other imperatives are moving towards digital education, which brings in a variability of clients. It hopes to make education more affordable and has to be responsive to needs. Looking at digital citizenship as well, coming out of the digital economy and what we want our citizens to be able to do, and driving the need for digital skills, and future of work activity, which I think was spoken about by a presenter before. Some of the data tells us that up to 85% of the jobs which the students have today, which the students will have in about 2030, haven't been invented yet. So we're working in a world where we don't know what we're actually trading for. And then today's students, those who are graduating in this year, will have about 8 to 10 jobs before they're even 38. So between the next 18 to 20 years, those students are expected to have 8 to 10 different jobs. Part of the imperatives for change include that private providers have emerged, as I said before, and I think Dr. Shadrach just shared. Coursera, Microsoft is putting out a lot of digital skills trading. Flow Caribbean, as we note in some of our countries, released hundreds of courses in the COVID-19 space. So the providers are also different and emerging in terms of training. Credentials are not coming up as important as they were before. We no longer care to know almost your tertiary level institution education, but what skills, what can you actually do on the first day of job, on the job? And schools are no longer providing the knowledge or skills for good paying jobs. So that is part of what's forcing us to change. Awareness. Employers are still not aware of what TVET institutions can provide. Incentives is another basket. What are we really giving teachers who venture into this space? What are we doing to incentivize their life? I think time is not on our side, as well as an imperative for change, and public systems which have held fast to being the bastion of the TVET space are now having to respond to a market where they may actually find themselves at the bottom of the quality heap. And our biggest imperative for change, I think, in every society is that we want happy, healthy, thriving CARICOM citizens with an improved quality of life. So change in TVET is not coming, it's actually here. And so we've already started to talk about things like technology, enhanced TVET, digital TVET, and the constant struggle of responding between the skills and the job market. We have to start thinking in terms of, we've already started thinking about shifting from calling our calling persons students to learners, and what does that shift mean for us as we reprofile the industry. And how those skills are achieved are actually skills for the technology-oriented jobs are actually best acquired in a high-tech learning environment, and how do we provide that in the TVET world? TVET is already well-placed. I believe speakers before have already said this. TVET was already focused on transitioning and change and aiming to provide learners with skills for work and life. So TVET is already in that space and already accustomed to dealing with both public and private sector partners and looking at distance and learning and blended learning and e-learning, things like that. With regard to TVET and ICT, there is obviously an opportunity to bridge the gap. ICT can be used in many ways, from being a tool to being one of your goals and how you profile for that activity, to being a solution provider for providing experiences for all your problems, from course identification to certification. Technology can also make it easier to deliver the TVET, and students can also now bring their own digital devices, which takes some of the burden off of TVET to provide classrooms and spaces for the actual learnings to take place. Innovation in ICT has been well mentioned by Dr. Shadrach. I'm not going to go through a lot, but the new paradigm in education and the change that we have to make really relies a lot on those innovations in ICT. And a number of massive online courses which are open have been open to the world, and a new recommendation by UNESCO has been adopted as of November 2019, giving us almost free entree to use those courses as we would like as part of the formal education tool. And they provide access to, some of them are free and some of them are relatively inexpensive, so that we can access them a bit easier. And they're fostering the emergence of self-regulated educational online communities. I don't have enough time to talk about that, but it's an interesting part of the space as well, and how could we use them in TVET. Open education resources are there, and the MOOCs are part of that, or they're part of the same body. But a study commissioned in 2018 found that OER, open education resources, were widely unknown among TVET stakeholders. So we still have some catching up to do. There's student and learning management systems. Obviously, big data is a big deal, and there's opportunity for new jobs and new skills to be acquired in that space. The smart rooms and ICT hubs and a number of investments made by our governments are now a part of this whole value chain and could and should be used. And of course, bring your own device and augmented reality and things like telepresence, which Dr. Shadrach spoke about. So I'm inviting us this morning to really think about disruptive innovation and how would we use that to unleash the potential. It's not really used in this particular environment yet, but it's usually used where there's an untapped segment of the market which is not being fully unleashed. For example, Uber disrupted the taxi service and the transportation service, and so it's used in that way. But I want us to put our minds in that space and think about it. We have an untapped segment of market because there's several bodies of people I think we haven't touched yet. And it's responsive to when you have few resources in your space, and helps you to deal with a lot of the operational efficiency. So we're going to try to use disruptive innovation by CARICOM TVET practitioners for CARICOM TVET practitioners, and hopefully determine a niche in that market, or perhaps a new model for how CARICOM TVET wants to see itself in 2 to 5 years. The impact of disruptive innovation is that it acts as a driver for innovation, and it also can empower TVET institutions to develop a culture of innovation and fuel the innovation process itself. We've already heard and we already know the challenges related to TVET, and so I'm not going to go through them, but mainly I wanted to highlight the negative perception and image of TVET is one of the big ones, but which can also be helped by using ICT. More of the disruptive innovation means that we have to apply the 21st century skills ourselves, those relating to creativity, communication, etc., but in particular for the region, collaboration and cooperation. We talk about it a lot, but we don't really have documented plans for how we're going to do that collaboration and cooperation. We have to identify new sectors and their needs, and the how is still on my mind, but we do have teachers and practitioners who work in these sectors, so we'll have to draw them into the circle to help us increase the focus on employability skills, to determine which programs can actually add value to the TVET value system and move it along that chain, and to create pathways and new pathways of study for our citizens. We also have to examine the changing and converging roles. A big thing in our mind, as I shared with you about COVID-19 highlighting about customer interaction. Who are the TVET customers now? What are their expectations and what are even their ages? Somebody before me talked about TVET perhaps in tertiary, and somebody else may have mentioned secondary, but a number of countries are already emerging and starting to put TVET activities as early as primary and kindergarten, because young people and the younger children also need to start getting some of these skills around creativity and critical thinking from that age. One thing is clear is that our customers expect a digital process, and that's from sign up to payment to even getting your certificate digitally. We do not want customers no longer appreciate and tolerate you saying sign up online, but yet go into your bank to pay or come into the institution to pay. So we have to put all of those things in our mind. And some of the changing roles, I'm just sharing a few before I wrap up. Cantor will now be looking at the integrated regional view of TVET and providing a platform for vocational excellence by bringing all the TVET institutions into that space. At the national level, the ministries and the TVET units and councils, etc., will have to try to work on transforming themselves to innovation hubs, more doing the thinking of what is new in the space rather than being focused too much on the delivery. I believe that there's a lot of opportunity for the delivery to be done by private-public partnerships, and so you sort of farm out and push a lot of the pressure off of the TVET units to that type of partnership, and so that you can focus on resource mobilization, research and development, because you'll have to look to see which open courses fit your particular needs, and your client base and that type of thing. The TVET practitioners and teachers will become facilitators, but there's also the opportunity in our space to use them to identify some sector needs. We have teachers who taught agriculture, physics, engineering, all sorts of things, and they could be used in different ways, I think, to bring back energy into the space. We can use retired teachers for some of this and to really build it along the value chain. And we certainly need champions who understand the industries and can provide strong policy messages as we go forward so that we can bring more persons to the space. I'm about to wrap up. We have to develop new approaches, obviously, to look at what model fits us. It's not a one size fits all. How do we derive new sources of income? Because we are going to be in a space where we're competing with everybody. So we also need to think about courses which can apply to any one persons in the CARICOM space and across the sea. People may want to work with us on things dealing with the blue economy, things dealing with agriculture, which we have a lot of competencies in, and that type of thing. New relationships. Private sector shouldn't only be the persons we go for a handout when we want a course sponsored or a workshop sponsored. They now take on almost a more collegiate role, in the sense that we may be looking to them to actually set up the smart rooms, set up the rooms where we can go and experience augmented reality and that type of thing. Parents and community leaders are important because they need to spread the word and change some of this perception. Teachers, colleges, of course, and ICT practitioners. You can't be thinking about introducing augmented reality into your learning space and not talking to the ICT practitioners. And again, as I close, the big why for us is that we want to have happy, healthy, thriving CARICOM citizens who have an improved quality of life. I thank you, Madam Moderator. I may have been over my time, but I apologize for that. Thank you. Hello? Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, we must apologize. What is life without a little adventure? We seem to have lost our connection for a little while, but I believe that we are back on, so we are attempting to make contact with Ms. Britton once more for her to close off on her presentation. So please humor us a little as we try to make that connection. Thank you again for your patience.
Madam Moderator, can you hear me?
I am hearing you. Thank you for sticking with us.
It's okay. I'm not sure. I thought it was at my end. I'm not sure where you lost me in the presentation.
Yeah, we are actually we are on sitting for ourselves. Everything just kind of froze and then went blank. But we are
Oops. Back. Okay, good. Do you know
where you were?
Okay. Let me see. I don't know. Had you heard the imperatives for change?
Right.
Remember?
So you were in the process of going through that.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I will just I will go back. I'm sorry. Let me go back here, and I think obviously your presentation is going to be shared. I just want to make these points because I think these are the important ones. I want to invite the region to. Are you hearing me? Hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Wonderful, good. Wanted to invite the region and our partners to really in what I'm calling loosely disruptive innovation in the TVET space. I'm using and borrowing the term from other industries, but I think it fits here. And it usually applies to where you have an untapped segment in your market and you're going to be looking at serving some customers who weren't previously served. And I gave the example that Uber is one of those that disrupted the taxi and business. And so I'm inviting us to do that as we think about unleashing the potential in TVET. There is an untapped target segment. We have several other customers which we have not previously, I think, thought about in the TVET space, because now we have to develop all of our citizens in different ways. And it speaks to places where you don't have a lot of resources, but you need to correct operational inefficiencies in the current market. So I'm inviting us to disrupt and innovate TVET, CARICOM TVET for CARICOM TVET, meaning the same practitioners must stay with us in this and help us to disrupt and innovate for a new reprofiled TVET. We have the opportunity, I think, in the region to determine our niche. It may be new, it may be an add-on, a new model, and we have to be conscious that one size does not fit all. But the impact of looking at disruptive innovation, I think, will help us to position TVET as a driver of innovation in a coordinated ecosystem, and that the TVET institutions will then be empowered themselves to develop this culture of innovation and to fuel the innovation process which is needed for skilling and to apply the right persons to the right part of the market, etc. We've already talked about some of the challenges, many presenters before me, related to the TVET sector, but the one I wanted to just highlight here was the negative perception and image of TVET, which is a big deal if we're looking to get new customers and to keep the other customers, and also perhaps outdated curriculum, which we need to look at, but which ICTs and the open courses, which I mentioned before, can certainly help in helping us to update that curriculum without a lot of work. In disrupting this TVET space that we now live and work in the region, we ourselves don't only have to teach those skills, but we also have to apply them: creativity, communication, critical thinking. And I think the big ones for us in the region are collaboration and cooperation, which we talk about a lot, but which we don't actually have a formal process for dealing with. We have to give ourselves the space to identify new sectors and the needs of those sectors and think about how we will identify the new and emerging sectors. And there is opportunity with linking with academia, linking with teachers who are now supporting the CXC curriculum and CAPE curriculum to identify some of those new sectors and new emerging trends to be able to figure out what type of skills we would want to provide for learners. It will help with focusing on new employability skills, adding value to the programs perhaps, and creating pathways of study so our learners can actually see very quickly what the steps are to getting where they want to be. Examining and changing and looking at what our roles will be and the converging roles and capability is a big thing. We all as TVET customer, we all in the space have to examine who are the TVET customers, what are their expectations, and even what their ages are. Because we heard this morning that TVET is being applied already in tertiary and perhaps secondary schools, but some countries are already applying it at the primary level so that children can start to interface with creativity and critical thinking skills, and even learning how to cooperate around those skills as part of their program in primary and kindergarten. One thing is sure is that our customers now, given the COVID experience and the new impetus of digital technologies, our customers expect a digital process from signing up for a course to payment to digital credentialing. We have a lot of issues and instances in our space where you can sign up happily online, but then you get a message saying, please go to your nearest bank or please come to our institution Monday to Friday to make your payment. So customers expect a different type of approach with the digital technologies. I am proposing and just sharing some thoughts as to Canton now re-emerging itself. It's holding on and spearheading the integrated regional view of TVET. I think we don't have any other choice other than to have a regional perspective because our markets individually are quite small and we need to punch above our weight in this respect. And Canto will then transform itself into a policymakers platform for vocational excellence, pulling in all of the TVET institutions around the region. At the level, at the national level of the Ministries of Education, Labor, TVET units, and that type of thing, you need to pull your stakeholders into what I'm calling, and not I'm calling is not a new, it's not coined by me, but an innovation hub where we do the thinking as to what are our new customers, how do we plan for them, what are the new sectors, how do we plan for those, what are the new things emerging in our space based on ICT and the opportunity to deliver. And those TVET units and councils will be more involved in looking at resource mobilization and research and development more so than actually delivering many of the courses, because I'm also proposing that the centers be public and private partnerships, and private sector has a lot of experience in this as well, and we're seeing more and more emerging since the COVID-19 activities. So partner with them for actually delivering the courses so that you may become, in some instances, the actual customer of some of these centers to deliver the courses needed for your customers. TVET practitioners and teachers can also be involved in research and development. They have a lot of the sector information that we need as to new and emerging trends, and the teacher, because our students are now being transferred to learners, our teachers will now be taking on roles of facilitators more so than teachers. And we also need champions in the space who will provide and continue to advocate with strong policy messages to ensure that we draw new customers to the space as we continue. We also have to develop new approaches and models which are include perhaps outsourcing some functions. As I said before, the TVET unit may become a customer in some instances to let's say, for instance, somebody has a smart room that they have developed and they rent it. The TVET unit may be renting for the benefit of its customer learners, rather than TVET trying to develop a smart room for itself while at the same time looking at course quality and delivery. There are going to be new sources of income, perhaps, hopefully, because we have courses which could benefit persons across the sea and across the world. And so we should also be designing and thinking about those as other people in the customer space, not only our citizens. Obviously, new relationships and stakeholders will be foremost in our minds as we try to disrupt what is currently present. Private sector takes on a different role, not only for handouts, but they will also be close collaborating partners for us to deliver quality learning and skills, and they also accept and receive the persons who we say are skilled. So the iterative process has to continue daily, weekly with private sector. We have to be doing frequent labor market analyses to see whether where we're placing our value is still current next year, and how do we move it along the chain. Parents and community leaders are always missing in a lot of our planning, but if we want to change the profile and change the, for want of a better word, the appetite for TVET, we have to engage those persons as part of our new disruptive, innovative model. Teachers' colleges go without saying, but ICT practitioners also have to be at the table as well, because if you're planning to deliver courses via augmented reality, you need to know what is being planned in the country, being planned regionally with regard to broadband expansion, whether we're going 4G, 5G, or whatever the case might be. And so again, my reason which I use for the imperative for change comes back as the reason for why we're doing all of this. We want to have happy, healthy, thriving CARICOM citizens who can stay at home but work across the sea, and also improve their quality of life by TVET learning opportunities. I thank you, Madam Moderator.